Taking our Crossroads cameras across the state and back again to check on grazing on public land in the Sawtooth National Forest and in the Castle Creek area.
I hope the participation level stays high. I hope people stay constructive. I hope we get through it all, and I think we can.
We'll also examine the plan to reintroduce grizzly bears to Idaho. Take a look behind the scenes during the eastern Idaho flooding.
We've got bridges that we have to build back. We have an overpass that's gone. We've got part of the interstate that needs to be raised.
Tell you about a unique town near the Nevada border.
I probably went by it 20 years ago and didn't really change anything.
And bring you a story about some homegrown entertainers, the Pond Brothers.
I couldn't think of a better way to make a little money, something that we enjoy doing, and hopefully something that people can tell we enjoy doing it and feel good about it.
So stay with us for this edition of Idaho Crossroads.
I can't believe it. We're out.
Got milk. Life is filled with little surprises.
Honey, what are the kids doing?
Why, dear, they're upstairs taking a bath.
So when a little surprise turns into a flooded home, call All-American Cleaning and Restoration. Whether it's broken pipes, backed up plumbing, or natural disasters, call the water damage experts at All-American. 24 hours a day, we're ready to meet any emergency. So when disaster strikes, call All-American Cleaning and Restoration.
How would you like to play a golf game you don't have to be good at to win? Play Go for the Green from the Idaho Lottery and win up to $18,000. Plus, there's a bonus scratch area where you can win one of 10 getaway packages for 2 at the Coeur d'Alene Resort. Enjoy golf, skiing, or dining. See your retailer for details.
Chuck, just pick up the ball.
Land to graze their herds. That's part of what's made ranching profitable and helped keep down the cost of beef. But new regulations threaten that. Grass. It's a resource that's very important to livestock operators. Here on the Sawtooth, where grazing reform is proposed, ranchers feel the new way will be unfair, and that means show and tell time on the range. Rancher Peter Jans explains his concern.
This policy that you're now having is going to will force me to reconsider all of those practices because the bankers are not as fickle as the Forest Service. The bankers want their money every year in the same amount. And I won't have the luxury of protecting the environment as I have been doing if potential habitat of this Wood River sculpin, not even a threatened species, forces me off the Forest Service.
This tour, led by grazing permittees for the purpose of educating the decision makers, proposed some hard-to-answer questions for range managers who are assigned to carry out policy from Washington. Rancher John Baldwin has a problem.
We don't have a 4-inch stubble height requirement here, and yet you do on me, and I don't think that's fair.
Idaho's Senator Larry Craig, raised on a cattle ranch himself, feels the same frustration as the permittees, and he explains some of the problem is the bureaucratic system setting the rules.
What I think we see happening is reaction, and in some instances, overreaction by agencies that are trying to keep themselves out of hot water. To me, that is a problem in decision-making and a problem in the collaborative process that just hasn't worked very well. And you talk about, I think, Peter, you used the term transparency, and that's something that we've really got to get at. And that's part of why we're on this range tour today.
I had a question for Forest Supervisor Bill Levere.
Do you feel that there's much chance of you being able to influence policy further up the line with what you learned from the ranchers in this area?
Yeah, I believe so. I think because of some of the issues that have occurred on the Sawtooth National Forest lately, because they have been elevated to a national level, we now have that attention.
The ranchers in the Castle Creek grazing area and the Bureau of Land Management have a different situation, and they're cooperating to improve the environment. There are problems on the range. Some areas could be better, but most of the area is in much better shape than it was several years ago. And range consultant Con Bateman says some areas labeled in poor condition are just naturally that way.
Studies done by Lee Sharp and other people, this site right here is stable in the condition it is, and it'll be stable like this for another 100 years.
The goal of the Bureau of Land Management is outlined by the BLM's Signe Sather Blair.
Improving the spring ranges and setting up some restoration systems, improving some of the riparian habitat areas in the summer ranges, and also addressing some of the wet meadow needs for sage grouse and some of our upland game birds in the summer ranges.
Blair says the ranchers and conservationists are cooperating well with the BLM. But the Idaho Department of Agriculture's Glenn Sechrist says there needs to be better understanding between the groups of what is needed and what can be done.
Somehow, people have just got to say, you know, that's always there, but I have to get out here once a week or once every 2 weeks to begin to understand really what's going on out here.
And Sechrist says all parties involved need to realize how interconnected the rangeland issues really are.
Somehow we have to understand that these things are so intertwined that if we don't deal with them as a whole or in a package, then we really get into all of these boxes and molds, and there is no commonality. There is no common understanding.
Rancher Bob Collette says ranchers and the BLM have come to an agreement on several issues. He says the agreements were pretty much in place before a lawsuit by environmentalist John Marvel.
We try to come up with our lawyers and us, come to the conclusion if we can make some kind of agreement for this year. Why then, stay out of the courts, you're better off.
Banker Blair Wilson gives loans to ranchers. He says his company, Farm Credit Services, helped finance the cattlemen's legal defense.
We realized that after 7 years of drought and a couple of years of poor cattle prices, Mr. Marvel was coming in and somewhat bayoneting the wounded, and they needed our help, and we were happy to contribute it because we've got to have, long-term for farm credit to be successful, we've got to have successful ranchers able to use public lands and be viable and continue to be viable, and so we're happy to lend that support.
In 1973, the BLM built several water tanks to water cattle on the high ground to keep them from trampling the riparian areas. There are 21 miles of pipe across the rangeland. Rancher Bob Collette says the riparian areas are recovering nicely.
The BLM is asking for a 4-inch stubble height be left at the end of the year, which if they move the cattle out of here before the 1st of July, usually you'll get that everywhere from 4 to 6-inch regrowth.
The range tours are working. All parties involved are getting a better understanding of what the others are concerned about. There's better communication all the way around. A plan to reintroduce grizzly bears to wildlife areas in Idaho has created a lot of controversy. A coalition of environmental groups hired an environmental pollster to survey how Idahoans feel about the proposal. At a press conference in Boise, Mike Roy of the National Wildlife Federation said his organization and the Defenders of Wildlife obtained the support of a couple of timber industry groups, as well as a labor organization or two for the project. The major finding of their specially commissioned survey was that its results were different from a previous survey on the same subject. The latest survey was by Responsive Management Incorporated, which has done previous surveys for Idaho Fish and Game. The reason for the different result was they asked the questions differently, and they surveyed people in Montana as well as Idaho.
We asked, do you support or oppose reintroducing grizzly bears to the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness Area? 46% indicated they supported this. 35% expressed opposition, 9% had no opinion, and 10% indicated they did not know.
But when we talked with Idaho's Governor Phil Batt, he said that despite a mailing campaign by environmentalists who favor reintroducing the grizzly bear to Idaho, he's received many more letters and phone calls from Idahoans who disagree with the latest poll.
Out of that big mailing they sent out, we got, I think, about 24 replies, some of them from out of state, some in. And spontaneously, we got probably 1,000 letters on the other side saying don't bring them in. So there are a lot of folks concerned about this.
Hank Fisher of Defenders of Wildlife says the biggest reason for people opposing reintroduction is fear.
The poll also shows there is substantial opposition. In fact, the poll shows there are some people who will not change their minds no matter what conditions we impose. They are just opposed to it, and we respect that.
The governor says he's listening to his constituents.
But the people who are directly affected by that action almost unanimously oppose it.
The proposal calls for a citizens committee to be part of the group managing the reintroduction of grizzlies.
Its authority stretches across the experimental population area, the broad area surrounding the recovery area, where decisions will have to be made on where bears can be accommodated.
But the governor doesn't think much of the committee idea.
I strongly oppose any artificial reintroduction of the bears.
The coalition of environmental groups, timber interests, and labor groups is hoping this latest poll will change the minds of Idaho's congressional delegation and the governor.
There are ecological values that we might recount about returning the last species that no longer exists in central Idaho back to central Idaho to a point where we will have a fully intact functioning ecosystem, perhaps unparalleled anywhere in the continental United States.
If such a program is put into action by the Secretary of the Interior, plans call for trying to keep the bears out of contact with people as much as possible, as a safety factor. A lot happened behind the scenes during the flooding in eastern Idaho. The Crossroads cameras were there to record those efforts. And we'll have that and a look at a town that's on the map. But don't blink as you drive near it, or you might miss it. We'll be right back.
Captain, here's your cookie.
Cookies? Nope.
Got milk.
Hi, I'm Michael Bargalski. Did you know there's over 1,200 miles of trails in the Targhee National Forest? Each week, Targhee Trail, sponsored by Chaffin RV Sales, will feature a new trail. We'll show you how to get there and what to expect when you arrive. Join me Sunday in the 10 p.m. news and Monday during Good Morning America for Targhee Trails. Brought to you by two companies making a difference, Chaffin RV Sales and Idaho 8.
Certified nurse midwives are becoming an excellent choice in Idaho for women's health care. Working in a team with physicians, they provide safe and satisfying care during pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum. Births are attended in hospitals, and all services are covered under medical insurance or Medicaid. Nurse midwives also provide routine gynecological care, such as annual physicals, pap smears, and family planning. Call a nurse midwife for safe, personalized health care, what every woman deserves.
The biggest flood in Idaho since the Teton Dam collapse in 1976 hit the eastern part of the state this spring. It was a classic case of Mother Nature flexing her weather muscles. When the record snowpack began melting very rapidly, the streams, rivers, and irrigation canals just could not hold it all. There was just too much, despite all the efforts to contain it. On June 13th, Idaho Crossroads cameras toured the area with Lieutenant Governor Butch Otter and went behind the scenes. We're going to show you what went on that you didn't see on your evening newscasts. While the drama unfolded with volunteers taking part in sandbagging operations and helping people move to higher ground, there was a lot of planning and coordinating going on that most people were not aware of. While buildings and some levees were being saved with sandbags, other people were worried about more horrendous possibilities. Jefferson County Commissioner Ken Stromberg talks about what could happen if they lost the head of the Great Feeder Canal, which feeds the whole irrigation canal system in that area.
City of Ryrie would be in jeopardy. In fact, a good share of Jefferson County. If this isn't held here, this would flood a good share of Jefferson County and other counties.
But here's the problem, whatever gets it coming over the top, right?
Jefferson County Sheriff Blair Olson says everyone was worried. He also says they drained one canal to relieve pressure.
This is the one that's almost empty, and there's some farmers that's going to go without water for a few days because of this, but, you know, I'm sure they're wet enough. Willing to sacrifice to save their town.
Ron Carlson, the water master in the flood region, confirms there was a lot of damage. Farmers took the big hit, and it was really big. Early estimates indicate that the Jefferson and Bingham County areas received more than $1 million in flood damage, and that's just in crop loss. About 20,000 acres of farmland were underwater, soaked by the flood. And that's early estimates. But Watermaster Carlson says there is some good news coming in about crop damage.
We've been out and looked at, you know, the actual flood damaged areas, and there are extensive areas where there's been crop losses. You know, some farms were completely devastated this year. Down the Thomas area is kind of a sad situation to go down there and look at some of the damage that occurred there. Go up around Manan, and of course some of those fields have been underwater for over 2 months.
And the situation may not be so bad after all.
I think the bright side is I believe the estimates are, they overestimated the damage to crops that were vulnerable because of canal damage.
The way everyone pitched in to help during the emergency surprised people, even the people who lived there. The state opened 2 relocation centers, and only 20 families showed up.
Other families, other friends, neighbors reached out, grabbed them, and brought them in.
The volunteerism was a tremendous factor in dealing with the multitude of problems that the flooding produced. Even Lieutenant Governor Otter was impressed.
As, you know, as bad as all this is, there's a beautiful spirit here.
And there is hope for the future. Watermaster Ron Carlson says he's hoping the damage can be repaired by the end of the year. And he says preparations need to be made to prevent this from happening again.
It would be my hope that in putting these canals back together, there's some consideration given of actually building back some of the levee work to a level greater than is needed just for the canal system to provide flood control and a flood buffer against the river. Of course, that increases the cost, but it certainly will reduce the cost if this ever happens again.
It is said that one of the most important parts of life is learning from our mistakes. Let's hope we learn enough from this flood so we don't make the mistake of not preparing for the next one. Route 51 runs south out of Mountain Home, Idaho, cutting across the desert on the way to Elko, Nevada. For miles, all you see is sagebrush and heat waves. And then about 100 miles out of Boise, you see some buildings. It turns out to be a town. It's official. It's on the map. It's Grasmere, Idaho.
Yeah, not much traffic here on the main street of Grasmere in Idaho. There have been 3 cars gone by. That's counting both directions during the past half hour. And you know, it's not often that you find a town where the mayor owns the town. He also runs the cafe and the bar and the service station and the wrecking yard. So why did he buy?
We just wanted to get out, you know, kind of like retire.
And the next big question, what does it take to buy a town these days?
This is sold for about $150,000.
This is near the midpoint between Boise, Idaho and Elko, Nevada. It's the place where people knock on your door in the middle of the night when they have trouble on the road. How often does it happen?
Just about every night. Oh, they have, you know, like wrecks and stuff like that. We open up, let them use the phone.
The phone is battery operated. You see the nearest phone line is 9 miles away. And Grasmere doesn't have any power lines coming to it, so electric power is provided by a diesel generator. You can get gas here. Of course, it costs a lot more than in a bigger town. It costs more to deliver. Oh, and don't forget to bring cash. Even Visa is not accepted here. And gas is one of the 2 best-selling items here.
Gas and beer.
Another big item is soda pop. Cowboy Jake Ireland always stops in on his way past to buy a drink. Today, he's on his way to a rodeo in California.
I'm going to Springville, California, rodeo.
Just on the way by, huh?
Yeah, going to Elko to meet some guys and go down there.
Jake rides saddle broncs. Another cowboy customer, Hig Overton, stops in once in a while for a cup of coffee. 40 years ago, he rode saddle broncs in rodeos. Now he cowboys for a big operation and stays out alone. This is the nearest place that you can get that cup of coffee?
Yeah, other than my camp.
Grasmere is also a mail drop for cowboys who work on the range down this direction. Men like Terry Ackerman, who's been coming into the Grasmere Cafe off and on for more than 20 years.
I probably went by it 20 years ago and didn't really change anything.
Painted the sign since then?
I don't know. Not that I know of.
Yep, this is cowboy country, where the cows outnumber the people 12-1. Of course, here in the town of Grasmere, there aren't any cows. But then the population is only 4. But it's a living for Ralph Crane. He says his duties as mayor don't take much time. There are no city ordinances, just state laws. There's no police force, just the county sheriff. And he likes it here. It's nice and quiet. How long does he plan to be here?
Well, we bought it, we're going to stay.
So the next time you're heading south out of Mountain Home, headed to do a little gambling in Elko, stop on in at Grasmere and say hello to Ralph. He can always use a little more business. Idaho is noted more for its agriculture than it is for its entertainers. But we've got a couple of guys who come from a family of music makers, and Jerry Miller talks with them when we come back.
Wow.
It might not make a big difference to you that your Farm Bureau agent is one of the industry's best trained. Then again, maybe it will. You might not be impressed that your Farm Bureau agent is always looking for innovative insurance and financial solutions. But someday, you might be. And you might not think it's important to plan for your future with a preferred client review. But maybe you should. The Farm Bureau family. Our most important policy is caring.
Oh. Want to know how you can miss a short putt like this and still feel good? All you have to do is join this year's Project Warmth Golf Scramble. It's a great cause. Friends helping neighbors with winter utility bills. All money is used locally based on need. So sign up today. And you'll care less about missing those 3-footers, knowing you're helping a neighbor. I'm still smiling.
Hands Helping Homes needs your help. Several homes in Idaho Falls needs to be painted for seniors. If your business, office, or organization can build a volunteer team to paint, there's a house ready for you. Please call Lois at 522-5391 today.
I'm Carol Honus. This is the Idaho 8 Studio Control Room. We offer closed captioning for our hearing-impaired viewers so that they can read the words during our newscast. Lockheed Martin and Idaho 8 are very pleased to bring our hearing-impaired viewers this service. Idaho 8 News is coverage you can count on.
What do you do when you're a farm boy and you love music? Well, the Pond brothers decided to use their talents to sing for a living. And Jerry Miller reports that their plan is working very well.
If you're looking for a great place to get away and relax in eastern Idaho, try the 7N Ranch on the scenic South Fork of the Snake River, just past Heisey Hot Springs. The 7N is named for the Newby family, George in Tennessee, their 4 kids, and George's mom, Clara, who ran the ranch for years with her husband. But now it includes a miniature golf course, a driving range, camping hookups, and more. Tennessee loves being in this scenic spot.
Oh, it's beautiful up here. It's a really nice place to live. It's after September, it's quiet, and it's a whole different world. Summers are crazy, but you know, it's nice to be with the people, and I enjoy working with people.
Grandma Clara says they had lots of chances to sell the place, but couldn't bring themselves to do it.
Well, we want to keep it rural as much as possible. There's no way you can make a living on a small farm. And my son thought that this would be the best way to keep it just as close to the natural thing as we possibly could. And the people are wonderful, you know, that live out there. They like it, and we like it.
We could have developed it, we could have sold it many times over, but we'd rather be poor and enjoy it.
And when there are no floodwaters around, there are plenty of people to work with. On this day, I pretty much had the run of things: the driving range, a round of miniature golf with the club pro and her sisters, a refreshing ice cream cone with the security crew, and then on to the dinner show that night with the Pond brothers, Dana and Matt, who've been singing since they were kids.
Wow. We'd get asked to do some shows at churches and various things, and Mom would always say yes. She could never say no.
Younger brother Matt says one thing they have going is their unique style.
One of the greatest compliments someone gave me one time was, they said, you don't sound like anybody on the radio. And I thought, well, you know, that's neat that I kind of have my own unique, or we have our own unique touch and sound. And it's, whether they meant it good or bad, I took it as good.
And they are, and a lot of fun, too.
I've never filed a return.
The small group on hand this night not only got a great show, but a great barbecue beef dinner. The Pond family does the whole meal. Grandpa Pond is the MC, and Matt's wife, Melissa, runs the sound system.
To this day, I still don't know how I kind of got that job. Guess we just traveled a lot. They did shows in a lot of different places, Salt Lake, Sun Valley, and I went to every show, and little by little, they just kind of started teaching me a little bit more, and before too long, I was on my own.
But maybe the proudest of them all is Lapreel Pond, Dana and Matt's mom.
I guess it's okay for a mother to say they're sweet. They're all sweet children, and they're all good children. And they treat us so well. We're proud of all of them and what they're accomplishing. They're good mothers and fathers, and this delights us.
During the show, Matt and Dana also delight the crowd, like when they explained how they learned their very first country song.
Well, we found this record, a little warped by the sun, but it's got exactly what we needed on it. Cowboy songs, no kidding. We're going to sing some for you tonight, and if you know them, help us out, sing along. Where seldom is heard a discouraging word, ding word, ding word, ding word, ding range, where the deer and the antelope play.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Idaho Crossroads. Next time, we're going to take you on a trip to a backcountry ranch way in the backcountry. So until then, Steve Ritter and I will be looking for you along the Idaho Crossroads.